Alright, what's up, Arts here, and of course, welcome back to the channel. Now, in today's best class setup video, we're going to take a look at the R3K Assault Rifle. Now, for those who don't know this just yet, this is actually a first weapon. I want to say that this is the Type 95, so the brother. Although it does pack just about as much of a punch damage-wise, the fire rate is a lot lower. So because of that, you can't really rush around this gun. Of course, you can drop an opponent with only one burst. But the moment you miss your first few shots in close range engagements, that's it, you're going to die. And honestly, there's not much you can do about that except, of course, keep your distance, play it safe, and in that case, you should be good to go. And with that being said, as per usual, first we're going to take a look at the attachments. In this case, we're also going to lethal, and then finally the perks. Of that being said, let's get to it. Now, as always, once again, we have the elo sight. In this case, obviously, the iron sights aren't too bad, or at least I find them pretty usable myself. However, like I said before, this gun shines at medium range. It does work quite well at long range, if you're accurate, it works at close range. But for the most part, it works best at medium range. And in that case, having a sight on your weapon is never a bad idea, just because it makes it a lot easier for you to stay on target. Now, like I said before, the elo sight and the reflex sight are my favorite optics in this game. But of course, you can switch this one for whatever you prefer. Like I said, it works best at medium range, so in this case, it honestly doesn't matter which side you pick. Anyway, so next up, we have quick draw. For once, I'm not using before, okay? Just putting that out there, it's not needed for this gun. But quick draw, of course, is just to make this gun a bit more deadly at close range. Not so much medium to long range, but at close range, if you want to actually stand a chance and actually win multiple gunfights in a row, then being the one that hits your target first is definitely a must, because otherwise, you're at a bit of a disadvantage, so quick draw should help you out with that. Now, I haven't looked into it too much, but if I'm not mistaken, in previous titles, it usually decreases the amount of time that it takes to zoom in by about 30-33%, something along those lines, so obviously, it is a bit of a lifesaver. Then next up, we have Fusion Mag, a new attachment. Now, of course, at the start of the beta, Scavenger wasn't actually available, and later on, when they basically increased the level cap to 35, Scavenger was available. However, it wasn't working. In fact, another new thing's working for me. The Focus Assault Rifle wasn't working. That new shotgun, I can't remember what it's called. To be fair, I couldn't tell you. And then obviously the Perk Scavenger wasn't working for me either. So in this case, I went with Fusion Mag just because this attachment basically prints ammo for you over time. Now, you can only use it on energy weapons if I'm not mistaken, and of course, the R3K is one of those, so this one definitely saved my ass countless times, just because it makes sure you don't run out of ammo, and honestly, that's a godsend. And then finally, we have the stock. Now, of course, the stock has multiple uses. For starters, it makes you a harder target to hit at close range, just because obviously, hitting a target that is moving from the left to the right is harder to hit than a target that isn't moving whatsoever. Plus, at long range, I personally find it a lot easier to basically stay on target by strafing from the left to the right than it is for me to stay on target basically aiming precisely, so that's another good use. Definitely be sure to give it a go. Next up for my lethal, we have the cluster grenades. Now, like I said before, this gun definitely does not shine at close range, and in this case, using a lethal actually isn't too bad of an idea. Normally speaking, I don't really use lethals, don't really use tacticals, but in this case, it can help you get out of sticky situations. Chuck it at your opponents, and they're more than likely not going to run to you. And of course, if you think that there's someone sitting in a certain corner, chuck it over there and let your cluster grenade check it out for you. Anyway, so next up for perk 1, we have Recon. Again, my go-to perk in this game. Just because for starters, every single time that one of your opponents calls on a UAV, you also get a single radar sweep. And then again, when that UAV goes away. And at this point in time, the UAV and the counter UAV are arguably the most useful score streaks in this game, just because most of them aren't too deadly. So most of your opponents will be using UAV, so obviously, this is a pretty good one. Next up for perk 2, we have Hardline, just to make getting streaks a little bit easier. In this case, if I'm not mistaken, I was rocking the UAV, the counter UAV, and then finally the Warden. Now, the UAV has been my go-to score streak in every single Call of Duty ever since Call of Duty 4. So obviously, this is pretty good one. It basically shows you where opponents are at, which is never a bad thing. Then next up, we have the counter UAV, which are used for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. 1, I absolutely hate it when one of my opponents calls in a counter UAV because I rely on my minimap. I look at that thing, I want to say about 50% of the time at least. So obviously, when that goes, I'm at a huge disadvantage. And I figured, you know what, if I use counter UAVs, I bet I can annoy some people with that as well. So that's reason number 1 and arguably the main reason. And then next up, just like with the UAV, you get counter UAV assists, plus 10 every single time that one of your teammates gets a kill, whilst your counter UAV is up. And of course, that's going to help you get that Warden just a little bit faster, so it's not too bad. And then finally, the Warden is kind of like a mixture between the Stealth Chopper and the Escort Drone. You can either leave it in Sentry mode, or you can have it follow you around, and in that case, it'll save you countless times. And then finally, for perk 3, we have Marksman, which is actually better than it was back in MDF3, and honestly, this is a good one. For starters, it allows you to acquire enemy names from a greater distance. Basically, if you aim down the sights at long range, enemies, their names will pop up if they are within your line of sight. This one is pretty good, especially for spotting people. And then next up, also reduce flames that primarily affect sniper rifles. but gives a very minor benefit to other weapons as well. Compare this to, let's say, toughness from Black Ops 2, but very, very toned down. Anyway, with that being said, as per usual, if you've got a pretty solid setup for the R3K, then definitely be sure to share that one in the comments down below for us to try out. If you enjoyed this one, some support, a like rating would be very much appreciated. If not, that's cool. If you want to, you can also follow me on Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram. You can find all those things in the description. And then finally, in fact, as always, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for the continued support. And I will catch you in the next one. Take it easy.